Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video, as you can see by the title, is my top 10 tips on renovation, house developments, DIY, interior design, all that sort of stuff. So disclaimer, I'm not an expert, surprise surprise, but I have been involved in property my entire life. My parents are property developers. I've grown up on building sites. This is the second property I've developed that I own, and I have a little interior design business on the side, and also my boyfriend's a plumber, so I'm just surrounded by DIY and projects and all that sort of stuff. So I really just wanted to give my account of 10 things that I think will help you if you're new to it or if you just need a little bit of guidance. So I'm hoping this video will help. So my top 10 tips, they're not really in order, but I will say what I think are the most important, and the first two are the most important. The first one is to plan. Please make sure that you plan your projects. I'm slightly guilty of not taking my own advice, and with the kitchen renovation, I didn't plan it as well as I should have done. However, I've learned from that now, so I will definitely grow from it. But please plan. It includes mood boards for like the interior part, but also timelines, how long you want it to take, all that sort of stuff, what you're willing to include, just everything that you want. Put it down on paper and make sure that it makes sense and that it's all cohesive, because I have about 3 million ideas in my head, and unless I write it down and have that like specific goal, I will go for everything and then it ends up in a disaster. So yeah, one, definitely plan. My second tip, just as important, is to make a budget. Don't go into this blind. You need to make sure that you have an idea of how much you're wanting to spend and what that cost will cover. So a lot of people I've spoken to, like in regards to say a kitchen renovation, have said, well, a kitchen cost includes the cabinetry and the kitchen fitter. It does, but it also includes quite a lot of other things. So especially if your kitchen isn't going to stay the same, like the cabinets are exactly the same spot, you're going to need an electrician to move plugs and lights and anything else you might want, like under cabinet lighting. You're going to have a plasterer to patch up from the electrician, a painter if you don't want to paint yourself, which is a good way of saving money, but obviously if you don't know how to, please don't. You've got so many different costs. You've got materials like MDF, filler, there's so many different things that you don't think of that will be a cost. So please ensure that they are all included in your budget, otherwise you're going to get a massive shock when you spend 8 grand on your kitchen fitter, your kitchen and your appliances, and you realise you've got another 2k to spend on different tradesmen and different materials. So please, please, please ensure your budget is watertight so that you know what you're working towards. My third tip is make sure that it is practical. Trying to word this. If you're wanting a wine fridge, you're wanting an undercover disco area, you're wanting undercover lighting, you want a massive couch in your kitchen and a breakfast bar, but your kitchen's about 5 meters squared, it's not going to work. So make sure everything that you choose is practical. From a tip from my kitchen, I have moved everything around in my kitchen apart from the sink. So I had to make sure that my hob was in the right place. There was no space for a normal extractor, so I had to make sure I got a hob with an under cabinet extractor. Had to make sure the space under that was right and that it would work without having an outdoor wall because I live in a flat. So all those sorts of things. Make sure that your plan is practical as well as what you want. My fourth tip is your mindset. I cannot stress this enough, that you have to be in a good place in your head to do this. It is stressful. When I first renovated my first house, I was lucky in the fact that my dad did a lot of it because I was at work. I left at 7 in the morning, didn't get home till 6 at night, and I worked in Manchester. So he did the majority for me. I just did bits on the weekend and after work. But this project, I have been on site every single day because I've been working from home, and I've been managing it, and it has been a stress pot. Hence why my videos have been few and far between. But it has been stressful, and you need to make sure that you're in the right mindset, because it is, like I said, it's crazy busy, but it's also, your house is a mess, you have a skip outside for God knows how long, you have deliveries coming, you have things to organise. It's a lot to ask for, and if you're not in the right headspace, it's probably not the right time to do it, unless you have support, which obviously I had the first time and I still have going through it, but I've just been a lot more hands-on this time. So please, please, please make sure you are in the right mindset, otherwise you're just going to go crazy like me, and nobody wants that. My fifth tip is roles. So I'm not talking about role play, I'm talking about setting roles within within the family. So if you live on your own, I'm sorry, but your role's probably going to be everything, unless you have outside family to help. But luckily I have my boyfriend Rob. He's definitely the hands-on one and I am the brains. Not saying that he doesn't have brains, but I take that lead. So he does everything. He's so handy. He does all the plumbing, he can do joinery, he does everything I need him to. But he definitely doesn't like the organising part, whereas I love that bit. So I will contact tradesmen, find tradesmen, get quotes, book them in, source all the materials, order them, book for deliveries, organise a skip, organise pickups, all that sort of stuff. So we know our roles kind of in the project and it works a lot better. You will argue a lot, and I mean I'm the cause of most of the arguments because I'm just in a bad mood all the time with it. But you will make up from it. Just make sure you have your roles, otherwise you'll muddle each other up and it just gets very, very confusing. And I'm telling you, it's just not worth it. My 6th tip, probably another really important one, is to get the right tradesman. So please don't just find some random guy online, get them round, get a quote and say okay. Please get at least 3, I'd say 3 or 4 different tradesmen to come around to quote the job up. So you might get 3 who quote it for 2,000 and 1 that quotes it for 4,000. So you know the 2,000 is the ballpark figure you want to be in, but you might get someone to come in and says 500, and then you've got to figure out why they're quoting so cheap, what have they not included in their cost, all that sort of stuff. When you have a few, you can get the idea of who's kind of in the right league, and also you can get a feel of who you want to work with. I'm not talking about chemistry in like a relationship sense, but they are going to be in your house for a long time and you're going to have to work with them quite a lot. They're going to ask you loads of questions. You might have to have discussions with them or be a bit more firm with them, all that sort of stuff. So make sure you get the right person. You are paying them to do a good job. They want to do a good job, or the majority want to do a good job. So it's making sure you have the right kind of connection with the tradesman and making sure that you're getting the right person for the job. Because if you don't, it's a mess. Trust me, I've been through it. It's not worth it. So please make sure you get the right tradesman. My next tip is timings. So a lot of people who have never done a renovation before or who aren't familiar with DIY don't understand the difference between having an electrician come in to fix a plug socket for like half a day versus having an electrician come in to do a first fix of a kitchen, a second fix of a kitchen, do the finishing touches. You need to make sure you know which tradesmen you need, when you're going to need them, how long they're going to take, and try and work it around each other. So it is really difficult. You might have an electrician on a Monday, a joiner Tuesday, Wednesday, the electrician on a Thursday, then a plasterer on a Friday. It's a lot to deal with. The best thing to do is to work out what you need, speak to each tradesman, how long they need, all that sort of stuff, and work it that way. And they can talk to each other as well. If they're on site at the same time, they normally work together, so that's really handy. But that is a definite thing. Another part of tradesmen that I forgot to say, try and get a job quote rather than a daily rate, because a lot of tradesmen, and I'm not trying to stereotype here because I know a lot of great tradesmen, but I've met quite a few who will charge a daily rate and then take forever to do it because they're just getting a daily rate. Whereas if you get someone who gives you a job rate, they'll say maybe 2,000, I'll get it done. It doesn't matter if they take 5 days at 150 or if they take 15 days at 150 pounds. I know that those numbers don't work out, you know what I mean? They will do the job knowing the money that they're going to get, and that's it. I've been in a position where I've paid a day rate and they are here after like 8 days and they said 4 days, and I'm like, I'm paying £150 extra a day here, so my cost is like doubled. So please, please, please make sure that you are good with the tradesman, know your timings, know your costs, and you'll be fine. I'm making this sound a lot more stressful than it is. I'm just a stressy person, so please just don't take this bit from me. Take the advice, just don't take how I act, if that makes any sense. So my next tip is very, very optimistic. It is prepare to fail. I know that sounds ridiculous, but please prepare yourself that it's not going to go smoothly. I have never once been on a job where the time taken is what it actually was. Like the tradesmen took a lot longer than they said they were, or there was a hiccup. Or take my kitchen for example, we ordered a hob that didn't fit with the extractor, that had to go back. We ordered a sink that wasn't actually going to work with the cabinetry, so that had to go back. I had to run to B&Q and get a new sink at like 8 o'clock at night to make sure it was there for the plumber the next day. There was another plumber as well as my boyfriend. Long story, but there's a lot to do and you've got to be prepared that there are going to be hiccups, otherwise it's going to be a massive crush on your soul. The good thing is, if you prepare for negativity and there isn't any, great. I'm not normally a pessimistic person, but this is the approach I take and it seems to work when it comes to DIY and renovations. But please just prepare yourself that it's not going to go as smooth as you may think. And if it does go smoothly, you're on a winner. So that's all I'm saying. My second to last tip is sourcing materials. So this is something that I pride myself on, whether it's when I do interior design as like a side business or just for myself. I am very good at finding good quality products for a fraction of the price that you might see online. I know a lot of people who will go online, search breakfast bar light, pick the first one that they like and buy it, and it's like, no, you need to invest time to research the products and you'll save a lot of money. So I found a breakfast bar light that I liked for £320 and I was like, oh, don't really want to spend that much money. So I spent ages trying to find another one. I found the exact same one, the same manufacturer, on sale on a different website for £79. So, you know, saving myself nearly 250 quid there, and it's well worth it. And when you do that with 5, 6, 7 products, it really adds up. I do have to say there are times when you should save on things, and there are times when you should pay more. It obviously depends on your project, but whether you want like a wow factor statement piece, that's when you should spend more money. Obviously do not scrimp on like safety equipment, because that's not a good idea. But there are things that you can buy a lot cheaper and they're not a brand name, but they don't need to be a brand name. And it really winds me up when people are like, oh, I must have Laura Ashley wallpaper. You don't need to spend that amount of money on wallpaper. It's ridiculous. I once had a client who wanted to spend £150 per roll of wallpaper, and I've spent days finding new samples of wallpaper that matched it but a lot cheaper. She was adamant she wanted to spend this money, and there were 8 rolls needed for her wall, and I was work that out yourself, but it was a lot of money when she could have had them for like £15 to £20 a roll if you just look in the right place. So I know it is time consuming and it can be difficult, but you will find things for cheaper and it's just as good quality. So please bear that in mind. You do not need to spend the most money on all these items because you think that expense means quality. That's not necessarily the case. And then my final tip is focus on finishing touches. So where I'm getting at from this is you don't want to have spent thousands and thousands on a kitchen for the final little bits like the painting, the cutting on the ceiling, the trims for tiles, the grouting, the soft furnishings that you pick, all that. You don't want that to be rubbish when you spend all this money on a kitchen, but that's what people notice. So like use sealants around like the tiles and around the bench top, finishings on the doors and like taking plastic off and all that. You want all that to be done perfectly because that is what people will notice when they walk into your kitchen, not necessarily your kitchen, your lounge, your house, anything. They will be the things that hit them, and if you do them well, that will be what they compliment you on. So please make sure when you are doing your finishing touches you are doing it right, or whoever you've employed to do it right, because that is really, really important. I mean, the safety and making sure the cupboards like attached to the walls, they don't fall off, that's really important too. But the finishing touches are very important. So that's just my idea of the top 10 things I think when you're coming to a renovation project. If you are going to be doing an entire house, I think you need to approach it completely differently. I mean, obviously the 10 things are really important, but it's going to be a huge project where you're going to need to have your electricians in rooms all the time. You're going to have like a 6-month period, and that will consume your life a lot more than if you were doing a kitchen renovation or flooring or something like that. But I do think that they're very important to take into consideration. A lot of people just go in completely blindfolded and they are shocked with what they see. But if you prepare yourself and you prepare yourself for the hiccups, for the money that it's going to cost, for the time that it's going to cost you, then you'll be absolutely fine. It is so worth it in the end. The final thing I'll say is when it comes to property, I'm very much in it to know that I'm going to sell it and hopefully make a profit. So to me, I do things to make sure that I know it's adding value to the property. Like I'm saying, if I am choosing between a £50 a metre tile or a £15 a metre tile, if they look the same and it's doing exactly the same job, there's no point paying that extra £35 a metre when someone who comes to buy the property isn't going to pay an extra £3,000 because the tiles are more expensive. But they will if the finishings are bad, and it's all that sort of stuff. So just make sure that what you are doing is what you want, but also isn't ridiculous and will cost you a lot of money for not a lot of return. If you're not in it for the profit and you're not expecting to sell and you're just wanting it for you, that's great. Just do what you want to do, but make sure you stay in your budget and make sure you stick to your plan. So that is my video finished for the day. Please like and subscribe if you can. I hope you're having a lovely weekend and you're staying safe, and I will see you soon.